The Rossi Model 88 2-inch. Let's check it out. Rossi's been in business since 1889, and they have produced a number of different firearms, including rifles, shotguns, little 22 rifles. I used to own the little gallery gun, little 22 pump. It was a great little gun, 20-inch barrel. But then my very first firearm that I purchased was a Rossi Model 88 in 3-inch barrel. Now, we had a review on this one just recently, and because just bringing this back out, I just love this little revolver. The quality is really exceptional. And so I purchased one of the 2-inch models. There are some differences, a few upgrades to this. But I just wanted to kind of compare it, and I've always wanted the 2-inch. They do make a Model 68, which is in blue. Now, the 3-inch barrel version I bought in about 1986, and it was a great little gun. I shot thousands of rounds through it, shot a lot of reloads through it. It's just a good quality firearm, which I demonstrated during the review. It's almost surprising because a lot of times with the company that's based down in Brazil, you think, well, the quality is kind of half and half, but it's really a nice little firearm. Taurus bought Rossi, introduced some of their pistols or their revolvers later, but I think they've even discontinued them. So Rossi no longer produces revolvers like this. But if you ever find one in a gun shop, guys, I tell you, just take a look at it because the quality is very evident. And then when you take it out to the range, it's just a lot of fun to shoot. When these first came out, they were under $200. I think I paid $179 for the first one I owned. Now I picked up this one on Gunbroker and the 3-inch, and they're running between the $350 and $400 range because they're sought after. Now again, Rossi started out in 1888 down in Brazil. And they made a number of different firearms. In fact, they made a number of different revolvers. But then in 1978, they started importing revolvers into the U.S., and it was the Model 68, which is a blued version of their 3-inch barrel. And then shortly after came the Model 88 in stainless steel. But we're going to compare those two in just a second. But this is a copy of the Smith & Wesson Model 36 or Model 60, which is the stainless steel version, the Chief Special. And these were actually built on licensed Smith & Wesson machinery. The parent company owned both Smith & Wesson and Rossi during this time, and so there was a lot of cues given to Rossi to really put together a very high quality firearm. These were very reasonable in price compared to the Smith, and the Smith & Wessons had some more refinements. Honestly, just a few, but this is really close. One of the big things that's a difference is the grip. The grip shape is just a little bit different, so you can't necessarily put Smith & Wesson Model 60 or J-frame grips on a Rossi unless you do some changing around because the grip shape is a little bit different. Let's go ahead and check to make sure the gun's unloaded. You do push forward to release the cylinder, and it is a 5-shot cylinder. It's empty. Now, one of the big things about these is they did come in blued and stainless, but to me, the stainless model really kind of shines. I mean, it's got a lot of quality to it. I've had the blues. They're okay. I mean, the bluing is not quite up to the Smith & Wesson standard, but the stainless steel on these is really nice. Now, the original was a 3-inch, but there are some differences. We do have an exposed ejector rod, which we have a covered ejector rod with the new 2-inch. And the 2-inch was imported later on. Also, there is a shroud right here. So this protects your ejector rod, which this is just open. Another big factor is that the 3-inch model is pinned. And you can see the barrel's pinned. There's the pin right there. On the 2-inch, they went more without the pin, which Smith & Wesson did as well. Now, both of these revolvers have an exposed firing pin on the hammer. And Smith & Wesson did too during this time. It wasn't until later that they changed that because this really makes it more drop safe if you take that firing pin and have a floating firing pin in between. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but to be honest with you, there's not a lot of information out there about these. They stopped importation around 1998 when Interarms, who was the importer, just went out of business. Another thing about the 2-inch is it has a little bit better finish on it. It's a little bit more of a polish, whereas the 3-inch has a little bit less, a little bit more of a matte finish. Now, one of the things about the original Model 68, which was in blue, it did have a small little blade rear sight that you could adjust. But on both of these models, there's just that fixed rear sight that's into the frame, and then you have your blade at the front. One of the things I will say about this is that they can be a little hard to see sometimes because of the silver, and adding a little bit of a color at the end really helps with accuracy. But you can see the barrel on the 2-inch is just a touch thicker. It's beefed up, but overall these are very close. I mean, all the other details, are very similar. One of the reasons why I love reviewing older firearms like this that are no longer being produced is that sometimes people inherit these, sometimes they've had them for years and years, really don't know what they're about, or just find one in a local gun shop. This is a double single action revolver, and these are the basics. First off, when you pull the trigger, it actuates the hammer. That's a really heavy trigger pull, but this is the way that typically in a self-defense situation you're going to use it. And then it has single action, and that means we bring the hammer back. It's a much shorter, quicker trigger pull, and then when we pull it, it fires. A lot of times people will use that, especially if you're shooting for accuracy. If you're at the range, you'll be tempted to shoot single action a lot more than double action. But one of the things about double action is, and again, in a self-defense situation, that's what you're going to use, and you really need to train with it. To load the gun, just push down on the cylinder latch, and then you have your rounds. You can load each one, and then when you're finished shooting, just take your ejector rod and push those empty shells out. It's a very simple design. And guys, to be honest, that is one of the appeals of revolvers. They are very simple, and typically they're very reliable. Now, Rossi made a number of different revolvers before they started importing them into the U.S., and they didn't import those. But they did start the Model 69, which was in .32 Smith & Wesson. It was a 6-shot. And then the Model 70, which was a 6-shot 22. And then the Model M971, which is in .357 Magnum, had adjustable sights, had a rib at the top. It was stainless steel, and it had a 4 or a 6-inch barrel. Now, there were some other models that they offered, but those to me were the ones that I remember seeing at gun shops. Now, I had a Model 60 for years. I sold it years ago. This is a J-frame. It's the Airweight Chief Special and Centennial. And this is with the covered hammer. It has an internal hammer, but it's still the J-frame. And this is pretty much identical in size as far as the frame size. A lot of guys, when I did my first review on the 3-inch Rossi Model 88, they said it was more like the K-frame. Well, this is your Model 64 in .38 Special, and this is a K-frame, and you can see it is considerably larger, just a larger firearm. And so this is, again, right in that J-frame size. But to be honest with you, when you're firing this and you have that 3-inch barrel, it can look a little bit larger. Now, one of the things about these, they're not necessarily rated for plus P. You can shoot some plus P in them. I've done it, but I wouldn't shoot that much. One of the things about the Model 64 is it actually has plus P stamped right onto the barrel. And that's one of the reasons why they built this a little bit larger frame. These were ready for a steady diet of plus P. Now, these did come with a rubber grip from the factory, and the original 3-inch came with a wood grip. And this is Brazilian hardwood. They're really nice little grips, but I'll recommend that if you take this to the range a lot, putting on a set of Pacmar grips on this makes a world of difference. But the Pacmar grips are specific for Rossi. Now here is the original Pacmar grips that fit the Rossi. I ordered these and the pin was missing, the screw was missing. But here is the original box it came in, and the model is ROS/C, and that is for Rossi Compact. Now I've removed the grips just to show you the mechanism, but that's typical maintenance to remove your grips to clean. Just want to make a disclaimer because it's against YouTube policy to do any kind of modification to your firearm. We're not modifying it, I'm just demonstrating the interior and showing that these areas need to be cleaned. It's really ridiculous we have to say that, but that's just the way it is. Now there are some differences between the older 3-inch model and the 2-inch model. You can see they have built up a ledge right here for the hammer spring. There's a pin that holds that into place. With the new model, it's actually one solid piece all the way around. And so this is just a little bit of difference. It's going to give it some more strength. Also, it's a little bit of a different shape. So the two grips are not necessarily going to be interchangeable. Plus, the pin for the grip is right here for the wood grips. And then for the rubberized grips from Rossi, there's kind of a cone shape. So just a little bit of a difference. But now there are some guys that have gone and adapted the Smith & Wesson J-frame grips to fit it, but there is some differences in shape in the frame and just a few things that are just different to make it not fit, you know, just right out of the box. Now the hammer is nicely curved. It does have serrations and it is stainless steel. The checkering on the cylinder release is really nice and aggressive, and you have checkering on the spur of your hammer. But just remember that firing pin is exposed right there, and so you need to be really careful when dry firing this gun, and honestly when carrying it. But guys, overall, the fit and finish on these revolvers is exceptional. I mean, it's really well done. It's more of a time when there was a lot of hand fitting, hand polishing, and it's really evident with these revolvers. Here at the top strap though, it does have a matte finish. Thin on the barrel, it's really short, but it still has a matte finish all the way through. And you have your serrations right here on the front sight. And these barrels have been crowned, so that is going to help protect your accuracy. Now as far as a little bit of the interior, of course you have your ejector rod that pushes out your shells. You know, load these one at a time, 5 rounds. They do make speed loaders actually for the Rossi, but I think that the Model 36 will work. With these grips, it may kind of interfere. Right here at the top, the nice forcing cone. It doesn't put a lot of residue at the top of your receiver. And so it really has a good solid fit. It locks up right to the forcing cone. It's a really tight fit. One thing though is that when you're spinning the cylinder, you can tell it doesn't really spin that freely. With the 3-inch model, we were getting a little bit more of a spin with it. But on the one that I had originally, it would spin really smoothly. So, you know, there is going to be some differences that way. But to give you an idea, here's this Smith & Wesson Model 64. I mean, that thing spins like a top. And so I might be able to go in there and just clean it up. And, you know, it could have sat in a drawer for a long time because this gun to me was not fired that often. Just from the way it looks, the appearance, and the front of the cylinder. But here you can see we've shot it quite a bit and it needs some cleaning. Now as far as trigger pull action, your double action trigger pull is heavy, but it is really smooth. There is no creep. You can't feel anything moving in there. It's just a very smooth trigger. With the single action, very crisp, nice little single action pull. Okay, we're going to check our trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells in double action. It may not read it because it is heavy. Okay, 11 pounds, 6.2 ounces. 11 pounds, 1.7 ounces. But one of the things I'll say, guys, if you start messing with the springs to make this a lighter trigger pull, you're going to start to affect the reliability of the firearm a lot of times. Sometimes you can get spring kits, like Wolf springs, and a lot of those are tested where you can do that if you can find springs for the Rossi. But when it comes to single action, 2 pounds, 9.6 ounces. Guys, it's really crisp. When you're carrying a revolver for self-defense, you should always train in double action. If you're ever going to use this, you're not necessarily going to take the time to cock it to fire it to get that lighter trigger pull. And so you need to be training just to go ahead and pull that trigger through. Now, one of the big things about these small revolvers is a lot of times women want to carry these for a self-defense option. They're very simple. They're very reliable typically. I mean, when you pull the trigger, they usually go bang. A lot less complicated than your semi-automatic. But one of the big problems is the trigger pull, especially in double action. I have a number of friends of mine whose wives wanted little snubby revolvers. Smith & Wesson, Ruger, it didn't matter. And once they tried to pull the trigger on double action, they ended up selling them. If you're thinking about having something like this for those with weaker hand strength, make sure they try it out and test it. And the weight of the Model 88 in 2-inch, 1 pound, 9 ounces. We really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA. And guys, they're one of the largest suppliers of ammo in the country. We're just going to be shooting some round nose. We might try some self-defense loads as well. Now, one of the things about a 2-inch revolver, even compared to a 3-inch, is you're just going to have more muzzle flip. There's less powder being burned out through the barrel, and so it just tends to ride a little high. It's a little bit sharper recoil. But with this little grip that was included with the original, this was a very soft gun to shoot. It was very flat to shoot. In fact, much flatter than my 3-inch model. But with the 3-inch model, I had left the wood grips on there. And so the recoil with this, even though the grip's a little bit large for a 2-inch to me, I like them really small to the grip. This gave a lot of comfort while shooting. In fact, while I was at the range, it kept surprising me how much I enjoyed just really shooting this gun. Most of the time when you take a 2-inch 38 Special, especially if you put plus Ps in it, or even a 357 Magnum, they're not a lot of fun to shoot. Not over a long period of time. You put a couple of hundred rounds through it, man, you're done. But with this little guy, I just wanted to continue to shoot this gun. So I was glad I brought extra ammunition. It's just very pointable. That little 2-inch barrel is very short, so it's easy to conceal. And again, the recoil's mild. So this would make a great little self-defense firearm if you like revolvers. And they're so compact and flat. I just enjoy carrying those old classic 38 Specials, on occasion. I still like, though, my, higher capacity semi-automatics. So guys, really just a quality gun out of the history of firearms. Rossi has made some really nice firearms. I don't know what their later models were like, but this definitely is representation of some of their later models, and the upgrades are really nice. The prices on these have risen over the past few years. Again, I think I've seen them for $159 to $179 when they were new. Of course, that was back in the mid-80s. Now, these are running anywhere from $350 to $400. And really for the quality, they're excellent. And it's still cheaper than a Smith & Wesson J-frame. Am I saying that this is the same quality as a J-frame? No. Smith & Wesson has really built some high-quality firearms over the years. But honestly, with these little Rossis, they come in close. And if you ever see one, I think it's a great little buy. These make an excellent truck gun, toolbox, going on a fishing trip. With the stainless steel, they're pretty impervious to weather as well. But again, if you just happen to be in a gun shop, just pick one up and take a look at it. Guys, I have been very happy with Rossi revolvers, guys, for about 35 years. And a lot of guys in the forums a lot of times will talk about how they sold their little Rossi revolver and they regretted it. And same with me. So guys, just a blast from the past, from yesteryear. Just thought I'd bring out another Rossi Model 88. And of course, these guns are just classic. They're very well made for the time. And of course, a lot of times we equate other countries, especially down in South America, as not being the highest quality. But to be honest with you, I would compare this to a Smith & Wesson Model 36 all day long, which I have owned in the past. Those are great guns. But the little Rossi is a heck of a lot cheaper, but yet it runs pretty toe-to-toe with the Smith, which is pretty astounding. Guys, check out Sportsman's Guide for all kind of accessories, shooting, hunting, camping, military surplus from all over the world. It's one of my go-to sources, and you get $20 off for every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, S-O-O-T-C-H, in the coupon code. And if you're a member of their buyers club, you get free shipping. And that really comes in handy when you're ordering jerry cans. So check out Sportsman's Guide, great resource. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic. Up here near the, okay, what is that? Here on this Smith & Wesson Model 66, you'll see that, is this a 66? I don't even know if this is I would not recommend shooting 38 plus. Let's go ahead and make sure the gun's unloaded. We're going to drop our chamber. This is not a chamber. Yep. Boop. Just to bring back old times, because I traded off my original three.